process was long and ongoing. I think we started making this record in like 2021. And so it's been a minute. Like we started right after our last release in 2020 and kind of unintentionally took a brief hiatus as a band for like a couple years. But throughout that, peppered in that was us kind of continually chipping away at the project when we could. But it was a long ongoing process. We spent a lot of time trying to really perfect the songs and make them feel good. But we're really proud of where everything landed and excited now that it's finally out and in the world. Like we worked with a couple different folks who we worked with in the past as well. Jeremy Steckel in Columbus. He has an awesome studio. We tracked a lot of the like sort of bassline instruments there, drums, bass, and guitars, things like that. And then went to our friend Steve Saputo, which helped us with our second release in 2020. He produced most of that. And then he for this release, just kind of like threw some additional production sprinkles on top and things like that. And then finished things out with our friend Michael Gio in Nashville. So yeah, it's been a long process. We're excited to have it out in the world and have it available to folks. We started off as like being very kind of surf rock influenced. Obviously the name of the band is Coastal Club, and we're also obviously not based on a coast. Like we're landlocked in the middle of Ohio. So we kind of wanted to have a sound that was surf rock influenced, kind of like a longing for the coast sort of a deal. And just some music that kind of makes you feel like you want to be at the beach or just near the coast, living your best life. And so we started off with a heavy influence in that. Kind of throughout our musical journeys, that's still definitely there, and it's still definitely like a huge influence, but it's not as present in the music anymore. I definitely think there's some songs and sounds that are reminiscent of that. Like Conversation has a little bit of a surf rocky type vibe, sort of in the beginning, it's like a 60s swung rock and roll vibe, moves into more of like an upbeat sort of surfy jam. But yeah, I think it's a lot of like modulation on guitars, vibrato and chorus on guitars. We all at one point have owned Walrus Audio Julia's, which is a big pedal that we are huge fans of. It's got a really unique chorus vibrato sound to it, but that's probably like the biggest for most of us being a band. I feel like chorus on guitar was very indicative of our sound and kind of like characteristic of our sound, with a lot of like slap delay, some spring reverb, kind of like a lot of very traditional surf rock type sounds. But that's definitely evolved. I think that like this release has a lot of sort of ethereal, dreamy synth sounds that are layered on top of those sort of surf rock inspired guitar sounds. So it's evolved as we've gone throughout being a band, but the core is definitely still there. I'm so temperamental. I mean, I think that was our first single from our last release. So it was obviously a song we believed in. It was like the very first single we released off that project. We knew it was a really good one, really fun, really upbeat, really happy. And so we thought it would be a great song, but by no means, I feel like most artists can't really peg what song they think is going to really pop off. I don't think any of us thought that it was going to be that one in particular. But we're happy that it did, and very stoked that people love it as much as they do. It's definitely a special song. It is very reminiscent of me, of my time with my wife, like our early relationship is kind of like what it's written about. And so it is like one of my favorite. It just makes me feel good, reminds me of that time, reminds me of a lot of those feelings and emotions very, very early on. And I think that probably translates for folks. Like hopefully it seems like a lot of people relate to that sort of feeling and sentiment and emotion. So it's cool to see people connect with it time and time again. But yeah, overall, definitely not. I think I was kind of thinking from that release that New Love, Go, or Dreaming Of would be the ones that popped off. And then Honey did, which we love. It's one of my favorites. So definitely not disappointed, but surprised for sure. To meet over a cup of coffee. I don't know if we have a process per se. I think it's just kind of a feeling or an emotion. Like I think for this release, we knew our previous stuff had been like very upbeat, very driving, kind of uplifting stuff, and not super somber by any means. So we definitely knew some of the singles should be should feel that way as well for this release. And I feel like that's pretty typical, right? Most bands are throwing out their singles are generally some of more of their upbeat, sort of like high energy stuff, so we definitely followed that blueprint. But outside of that, just trying to, I guess, like whatever songs we feel like we connect with the most, we'll put those out as singles, because we feel like if we connect with them a lot, then hopefully that means something and other folks will connect with them as well. For example, the third single that we put out, Lost My Head, is definitely not an upbeat song, but it's just one that I really feel like the production, songwriting, everything I really connect with. I think it's a really great song. I think that the way that it's shaped up is incredible, and it's one of my favorites on the project. And it was the decision to make that a single was almost just, I just believed in the song a lot, and knew, like, there's some other songs in the project that are a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more, have more energy. But I was just like, I believe in this song. I like the message it's saying. I think it encapsulates the project really well, so I want it to be a single. And then even kind of declined on some of the other more high energy songs, so that could be a single. So it just depends, I think. Yeah. Just come out of fighting. I'm so sick and tired of lying. The music scene in Cincinnati is really cool. It's a really cool community. Like, most artists in the community support the other artists like wholeheartedly, kind of like the rising tide floats all ships mentality. If one thing good happens for one artist, it can only mean more good things down the road for all the other artists and friends of that artist that support them. So I think that we've been really fortunate to find, Moonbow is one of our closest friends, like sister band, really. Like, we've, for the most part, started pretty close to one another. We've like been arm in arm for most of each other's musical journeys. So it's really cool. We're excited to have them on the bill. I think we've played a number of release shows of theirs, so it's cool to have them. And I've known Michael for a little while too, so it's cool that we're super excited he's jumping on the show as well. And yeah, I think the community is just super tight knit, also super welcoming at the same time. So everybody supports each other, and it's incredible. I don't think that there's many other places that have quite as tight knit of a community, because it's just like kind of the perfect size. It's not, Cincinnati's not like a giant city, but it's also not super small either. So you get just the right amount of folks inside of the community that want to support each other and everything. So it's really great. We're fortunate for it. Like I said, it's that tight-knit community again. Like, Boy Bandicoot, that's Avery's project. Avery's the bassist kind of / guitarist for Coastal Club, so that project is incredible. I play in that, and David, who drums in Coastal Club, also drums in that. And then our other good friend Joel, who plays bass in that project, I've worked on his stuff with production and engineering, and it's all the same group of like 4, 5, 6, 7 of us that kind of like trade projects and players and with each other, and it's a very like free and open and supporting community. And so it's cool to have like all of those bands that everybody's just trying to help each other out and play for each other and support each other, which is really cool. But there's definitely some other projects, like I'm in Nashville now, so definitely still feel the love and support from the Cincy scene, but I'm not quite as involved in it. But I know Fanta and Computer Sad, and we still love Silmar. There's so many great bands, and Fanta and Silmar's been around for a while, but like Fanta, Computer Sad, a lot of bands like that are relatively new, and they're doing really cool stuff. So we love to see that. And there's so many more that I'm off the top of my head I'm not remembering, but yeah, there's a really cool just sort of group of newer artists that are doing really cool things in the city. Definitely miss a lot of aspects and elements of Cincinnati still. It's still, Avery as well has moved to Nashville, but he's about to move back to Cincinnati. So there's obviously a bunch of things he misses from Cincinnati, and I feel the same. There's a lot of great people and a lot of great artists and a cool community in Cincinnati. Definitely that's here in Nashville too. Like, it's really cool to see the indie community in Nashville supports each other in a very similar way. Like, a lot of tight-knit folks and bands that like just want to help each other out, want to play shows together, want to play in each other's projects as much as they can, want to, cross promote and just help in any way that they see fit. So that has been really cool to see. And there's just a lot of music happening in Nashville, which is really cool. Like, it really, any genre that you could imagine, there's people who are grinding and hustling and trying to do their thing and make it happen. So that's like really encouraging and inspiring, and makes you want to do more of the same, I think, which is definitely still present in Cincinnati, but there's definitely, I think, like maybe a higher volume here, specifically since it's such a music city, which has been really cool, but definitely makes me miss Cincinnati in a lot of aspects and in regards. A lot of my friends and people there are some of my closest friends still. So miss it in a lot of ways too. Some headline stuff. I mean, even we haven't announced all of it yet, but we just announced those dates with Gable and kind of peppered throughout there. In the fall, there's going to be a few more cities that will hit for headline shows. And so we're planning headline tours and shows kind of like Midwest, East Coast, some in the South too, areas. But we're I mean, hopefully we get, it's wild. I mean, like, people reach out to us from, Canada or the UK, Netherlands, like everywhere, asking for us to come there. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. It's so cool that you're like listening to our music, and we really want to, but it's like difficult to make sense of. We might have some people come out in the UK or London or something like that, but it's hard to say, and it's hard to like know if it financially would make any sense or not, or if we just lose money. So trying to make it work, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to, but definitely still planning some regional tours and whatnot. So still a lot of exciting things happening.
Take your right hand and point it to the clouds. We're living on a prayer, but we have yet to sort the heaven.